listener. Can't even take the glory. You say it's jamming, I tell them the Father made it for me. All praises, the unbelievers will see him shortly. The Savior that is.
I've been doing it all day out there.
Prophecies being fulfilled. Imagine that you fell off and didn't study the word. All of a sudden, was that a trumpet I heard? Feel it in the air. And I can hear the trumpet. Sound like it's clearer. And ain't no way around it. It seems like they the second coming. But they gon' hear the trumpet. Still in depression. I tried running from my calling like Jonah, learning similar lessons. But now I'm all in. It's truly a blessing when you encouraging the brethren. We already dead if we live in pleasure. Hell in the kingdom, you tell me which is better. Thankfully, Christ is our intercessor. Scoffers mocking the Messiah. Will he really appear? Lo and behold, at the second coming, they are prepared. Regardless of your decision, before you even did it, the Almighty power, but yet He's merciful. He sent His Son to die for me. Like pick up your cross and follow me. The narrow path, who's the door to the sheep? You gotta keep your eye out for the second coming.
Shalom, shalom. Yes, Yisrael. That was me trying to blow it on to a tune to that song. I was trying to blow it on time. I should have just went on and just blew it regularly. I've been practicing it all day and had a good time blowing it yesterday during a baptism. We had 4 new saints got baptized yesterday, and I wore that trumpet out yesterday, and I'm struggling with it today. But this is Untitled with you here on Yom Teruah, which begins on 9/6/21. It begins tomorrow at 8:52 p.m. That's when the new moon is officially here. That song was given to me by my brother Joe. He gave this to me before. Derek Abar from the Vent. Part 9, 7, Trumpets. And thanks, Joe. Joe Carter from Liquidations. You can find him on Facebook. So, yeah, I'm going to try that again on the outro and blowing that. I'm trying to blow it at a specific time to the music. And I've been practicing it and doing well. But we're going to talk about this Yom Teruah. Now, obviously, we're going to learn a lot today. I'm going to do a 2-part series. I'm not going to finish this all today, because we're going to have to come back to the Torah portions in 2 weeks, because this is going to be a 2-part series. But obviously we're going to start with Leviticus 23, and we're going to go down to 25. And it's very simple, short and sweet right here. And Yahweh comes in here with this very short and simple instructions, but it's very powerful and lasting. And it reads, Then Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, In the 7th month, on the first day of the month, you will have a Shabbat rest, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, a Kodesh convocation. You will do no customary work on it, and you will offer an offering made by fire to Yahweh. That is Yom Teruah. And that's all it says. But we got a little bit more. Now I'm going to talk about this word trumpets. That's Hebrew number 8643. It's not what you think. Okay? It's not what you think. And we want to get some education today. But let's go first to Numbers 29, 1 through 6. Numbers 29, 1 through 6. And this is talking about the order of the offerings. And in the 7th month, on the first day of the month, you will have a Kodesh convocation. You will do no customary work, because it is a day of blowing of the trumpets. Again, this word trumpets is teruah. Okay, we're going to talk about that. And it's not what you think. And it's going to be a Shabbat. So that means all you who's getting ready to hunker down and watch Lamar Jackson on Monday Night Football, it is Shabbat. It's Shabbat tomorrow, unless you're keeping the next month, but we're going to talk about that too. You will offer a burnt offering and sweet aroma to Yahweh, 1 young bull, 1 ram, 1 7 lambs in the first year without blemish. Their grain offerings will be a fine flour mixed with oil. Now, all this means something, but I'm going to skip down to it. On the 10th day of the 7th month, you will have a Kodesh convocation. You will afflict your souls. That leads into the next feast day. So these offerings actually mean something. You know, I spent a whole month at least on these offerings, but I'm not going to go in there today because of the time restraints. Now, Teruah is a shout or a blast or alarm of joy. So it's not blowing a shofar. It's definitely not blowing a shofar. What this word Teruah means is the root word is ruah, 73:21, to raise a shout, give a blast, jubilant, shouting, war cry, battle cry, shout, and triumph, sounding the alarm. Ho! Ho! It's more, there is a blowing, but it doesn't really, I'm going to give you a deep insight in here of what you're blowing, but it's not a shofar, and it's certainly not the kudu, which I was struggling with this just now. But it's not just a blowing of the shofar. If you do that, you're not doing the tenets of the feast day. So I'm struggling now. I was blowing it all day yesterday for the baptism, and even this morning. But it's more of is a multi-use, is a shouting from you. And why from you? And it says, cry out. Yehuda has a unique cry. It's a battle cry. And it could be a war cry, and it's a call for the king. It's a whole lot. Now, I was even going to hang up my my machete here, because it's a war cry, but I didn't want anybody to get the wrong idea that I'm aligned to any kind of militant group. But I had my machete here too, because like Yeshua said, hey, how many do we have? He said 2, that's enough. He didn't say overdo it, but you are supposed to be ready for war. Not now, because right now we are not in position for that, and it is inappropriate. It is no fighting and warring now that Yeshua HaMashiach leads you. But this Teruah is not about getting a ram's horn or a kudu, which is what I have here. It is about shouting and praising and making a loud shout, bringing in the next phase of the revelation. Now let's look at this. Pictographically, you know I talk about pictographic Ibarit, okay? Because original words, original truth gives you deeper knowledge. Pictographically, this word teruah, which I'm telling you now, is not about you blowing a shofar. The word means to shout a blast or alarm of joy, and is rooted in the word to shout, or to give a blast or jubilant shouting. So you can blast a shofar or a kudu, if you will, and you must have primarily the shouting, and the joy. When Yahweh arise, all your enemies will scatter. Enemies will scatter. Enemies will scatter. When Yahweh arise, all your enemies will scatter. Hallelujah. When Yahweh arise, all your enemies will scatter. We will be regathered. Yahweh reign forever. Yahweh arise, all your enemies will scatter. Hallelujah. Oh! Shout. Pictographically, this word is Tau, Resh, Wa, Ayin, and He. And what does that mean on a deeper level? This is Mark the man who is secure and attentive to the breath of Ruach. And we know who the breath is. The breath is Yahweh. Yahweh is the one that breathed in the man to give him life. So we know what breath is. It means Ruach. So this Teruah means you're marking the man or woman, the man who is secure and attentive to the breath, to the Ruach. Are you marked? Remember, the Malachi said, don't harm the earth until my people are marked. Are you marked? Are you marked for salvation? Are you marked to be set aside to keep from getting those bowl judgments? Now, talking about the seals, we're already going through the seals right now. The first 5 seals are almost over. The 5th seal is almost over. We're waiting for the 6th seal. We're not being hidden from that. It's those bowls. And then, are you attentive? Are you paying attention to this? Are you paying attention to the feast days? Are you meeting Yahweh at the appointed times? And is He your inspiration? We'll talk about that. Yahweh is the original inspirer. He inspired into Adam, and then Adam expirated. He waited to exhale, and he exhaled. We're going to talk about that. So, what it is that the creation, this is what I'm going to submit here. And this is what is a lot of your sages and historians do submit, but that the creation, at least the creation of man, I don't know about the creation of the first day, but the creation of man, the sixth day was on this day, Yom Teruah. Because on Yom Teruah, Yahweh is the first one to do the blowing. Remember, this is not about blowing specifically a shofar or a kudu. Yahweh blowed into Adam, who was lifeless until then, made from the earth. 60 elements that are in our bodies all come from the soil, whether it's gold, silver, nickel, magnesium. All these things are in our bodies, but no blood. Yahweh blew into us, blew into Adam, who is the original trumpet. Yah! Blew into him. Adam exhaling. Way! The first sound, audible sound, is Yahweh's name. Inhaled and exhaled. And this beautiful man, silver, polished silver now, before he's dust from the dust. Gray, ashy, shimmery dust. A gray looking type. Grayish looking type. Beautiful though, until Yahweh blew into him the first part of his name, and then he exhaled the second part of Yahweh's name, and then he's a polished silver. Remember, Moshe was commanded to make 2 silver trumpets. They represented Adam and Mother Hawa. We're not given the description of how those trumpets are supposed to look. I submit they were the face of Adam and Mother Hawa. That's what I submit. You're not told anywhere in the Torah what those trumpets look like. You're just told just 2 of them. Only 2. And they come into play in Revelations also. But only 2 trumpets were blown. Were made, silver trumpets. The rest of them was the shofar. And they represent the man and the woman, the original man and woman. And they were silver. I gave a teaching a couple of times about the blood, with the blood, because there's no blood in the soil. There's 60 elements in our bodies, all are found in the soil. Where did blood come from? So we were not born with no blood. We were born and looking with that beautiful polished silver. And we are the original horns that the Ruach is supposed to blow through. That's why blowing the Yom Teruah is not about blowing a shofar. You are the shofar. You are the Teruah. You are the Teruah. And let the inspiration of Yahweh blow through you. And you cry out. You cry out with a loud voice. Ho! It is the creation of man. So let me read Psalm 37:34. Let's find Psalm 37:34. And I know that was surprising because everybody thinks blowing the shofar. Maybe that's why I didn't have much success this morning blowing that one. I'll try it again. But it reads 37 and 34. Now I'll go all the way down to verse 40. Yehonathan Dawit, if you hear, Yahweh for Christians on the famous WFBR 1590 AM. Wait on Yahweh and keep his ways, and he will exalt you in. Let me just make sure I'm reading the right thing here. 37, 34. Yep. And he will exalt you to inherit the land. When the wicked are cut off, you will see it. I have seen the wicked in great power and spreading himself like a native green tree. Yet he passed away, and behold, he was no more. Indeed, I sought him, but he could not be found. Mark the blameless man and observe the upright, because the future of that man is shalom. So see, this is what this is, one of the things this is about. Yahweh marking his teruah, who he inspires, who he's going to blow through and bring forward. Out of his mouth, he is the original respirator, inspirator. And then we resonate, he resonates through us. He's supposed to resonate through me right now on this mic, speaking the oracle. Remember Romans 3:2? Out of my mouth comes the oracles of Yahweh forever. That's what Isaiah 59 says. Forever, until he comes back, and then tongue is handed back to him. This word is supposed to come through your Hebrew brothers and sisters. No one else. Because this is where you're hearing that. Have you heard this before? That you are the Teruah? Have you heard that before? It's right here in the book. He blows through you. He is the original inspirator. You are the original sound of the trumpet. It came out of Adam's mouth. Way! That was his first breath. That was his first breath. And then he says, then what happens? The end of the wicked is then sounded. Once you have awakened and arisen, then the end of the wicked comes forward. This is the deeper meaning of Yom Teruah. Yom Teruah. See, it is even deeper than that. Because remember, man fell willingly. Adam was not deceived. He willingly partook of that fruit. This is where we got the blood from, by the way. He willingly took of the tree of Torah in faith that Yahweh was going to redeem he and his wife. Because he already lost one. Some people call her name Lilith. He didn't want to lose this one. So in faith, he took it. She was deceived. As such, there's two different kind of reconciliations to Yahweh. The sons of men and the daughters of Zion. The sons of men and the daughters of Zion. So the sons of men, that's the legal. That's why you have two beginnings of the year. You have the legal new year, which is right now. What they call the legal year, but this is the official. This is the legal year. But then you have the covenant new year, and the seed of the woman is the one that's supposed to that has already destroyed the serpent's skull. We're still waiting for the final outcome of it, but it's already been destroyed. Victory is already there. So you have that piece has to be finished. So the sons of men are in the resurrection on Yom Teruah, but then you still have the remnant on earth who's going to go finish out the tribulation, but who are covered from the bowls, and then you have the 144,000 connecting to Ephraim. That's because the seed of the woman has to kill the final enemy, which the final enemy is death, Hades, and the grave. That's not done with the resurrection, because you still have sinners on earth. This is deep knowledge I'm giving you here. Remember, Adam fell willingly. Mother Hawa fell by being deceived. As such, you're going to have two different groups of people coming back, being reconciled to Yahweh in two different ways. This begins with Yom Teruah. This is the beginning of it. You know, the nation is officially a nation through the woman's womb. If a Greek man marries a Hebrew woman and they procreate and have a baby, that child is a Hebrew because of the mother. If a Greek mother marries a Hebrew man and they have a child, that child is not Hebrew. Now he can convert and all that and be grafted in, but he is not born Iberit because the father is not Iberit. The father is Greek or French or whatever. The nation comes to the woman. See, this is another thing. You learn this if you follow me every week in the Torah portions. Remember, when they came out of Mitzrayim, when we came out, the first census taken was with us all as a group. A whole group, the census was taken. The second census taken before we went into Jordan, crossed the Jordan, after the Arab Ra was finally purged out from the Peor incident, all right, the Baal Peor incident. Finally, all the Arab Ra, all of Esau's seed was purged out from us. None of Esau went through the Jordan River. They all came through the Reed Sea, the Sea of Reeds, but did not go through the Jordan River. None of them went through that covenant. But before that, in that census, Yahweh had us divided into tribes. Then he counted us, because now we are a nation and we were divided by tribes. He separated us by tribes. Now, in both census and in all census, the women and children are not counted. So if the census says 3 million people, they're really talking about 3 million men of warring age, 20 years and up. This is important. I'm not giving you idle words. I want these words to sink into your ears so you can have greater understanding. When the census is taken, the only ones that are counted are the men of warring age. But there's more than that. And we know this is true. You got two witnesses in the New Testament. When Yahweh Shua fed the 5,000. There were more than 5,000. There was 5,000 men 20 years of age and up. But there were women and children there hearing his sermon. They were not counted, because when Hebrews do an official count, they do not count women and children. This is important. I'm going to hang in there. Then again, when he fed the 4,000, the same thing. 4,000 men, 20 years and up. How is this important? Because after Yom Teruah, when the resurrection of the dead, of the first resurrection, when we go up, there's still going to be Sadiq ones on earth. Women, the remnant is going to be women. Okay? Those who are widows, elderly, aged women, and virgin women, and boys under 19 and down. That's your remnant. They don't count officially in the legal. That's the covenant. They're the ones that's going to be meeting up with the 144,000 at Sinai. See, the remnant goes to Zion, and then the 144,000 with their companions. Because remember, Ezekiel talks about their companions. So the companions, I deposit to you, is going to be I'll get back to it. But then the 144,000 meet Rechabites. Couldn't think for a second. The Rechabites meet also with the 144,000, because Ezekiel says it's going to be 144,000 and their companions, and then the remnant is going to have their companions. So they all meet at Mount Zion. Okay? So none of them are a part of resurrection, but they are part of Yahweh's seed. That's from the woman. That's the covenant. Yahweh has to deal with them in a different manner. Those who are the first resurrection are, if you will, technically from the sons of men, the righteous men, though. Mark the perfect man, Psalm 37. And they are resurrected. We are resurrected in the first resurrection. We are resurrected. But all males that remain will be 19 and under, and then you're going to have girls and boys. You have women who are virgins, and you have your elderly women who are widowed. That's important. That's why throughout the entire Torah, when there's a census, there's a count, the women and children are not counted. This is why. You've just learned. Hey! Yom Teruah. It's a shout. Yahweh speaks. On this time, he should be your inspiration, and he should be blowing through you. His ruach goes through you during this time. Now, if you got a kudu or a shofar, fine, you can blow that too. But the chief sound maker is you. I don't like to use the word noise, really, because noise is a nuisance. And no one likes noise. It gets on your nerves. But a shout and a praise. Now, obviously, like I said, why I keep going back to this is not about blowing a shofar. If it was that, it would be Yom Shofar. And if it was really about even blowing the silver trumpets, it would be Yom Hatzatzerah. But it's not Yom Hatzatzerah. It's not Yom Shofar. It's Yom Teruah. Teruah is you. Ruach HaKodesh inspiring through you. You are Teruah. That's why it's Yom Teruah. It's not Yom Shofar. It's not Yom Hatzatzerah. That's what the two trumpets are that they blew. And even in the last days, the first 4 trumpets will come from the shofar. Why? Because Yahweh did the first killing. He killed the 2 rams to cover up Adam and Mother Hawa. Well, 2 rams equals 4 horns, does it not? 2 horns per ram. Those, whatever's in heaven is on earth. So those original 4 horns are up there. They were represented on the down here on earth, okay? For the altar on earth. And the blood was poured and is put on the 4 corners of the altar. Blood is poured into those horns from the offering. It represents the 4 horns in heaven that came from the 2 ram skins that was covered up Father Adam and Mother Hawa. Deep knowledge I'm sharing with you here, but I've shared it before. But in Revelations, there's 7 trumpets. And this is nothing, this is not the Teruah now. That's why I'm separating all of this. Teruah is separate from all these last trumpets of Revelations. We're going to talk about that when we do Daniel Revelations. But those last 3 trumpets are Hazatzerah. They're silver trumps. The first 4 are shofar, shofarim. But this is Teruah. You, as a man or woman of Yah, is the Teruah. Yahweh is supposed to inspire you during this time and shout through you. And you shout through your neighborhood. I know I do, out of my office window. I've been practicing. That's why I'm kind of disappointed. Maybe I'm worn out. Blowing this shofar out my window in my office. The neighborhoods, they've been hearing it, and they're going to hear it once it kicks off officially. And like I said, I had a good time blowing it yesterday. Pastor Williams baptized we had 4 new rebirths yesterday. Into the name of Yahweh Shua. Hallelujah. And I blew the kadu for all of them. So this is what this is. I want to, because you're going to be hearing a lot about this, but you're hearing the delineation between Teruah, shofar, and Hazatzerah. You're hearing the difference between the first resurrection and then the bringing the marriage of the Lamb. Okay, the ones who did not die. Remember, everyone's not going to die. They go up to the marriage with the Lamb. Okay, it's different groups. Everybody in this order. We're going to go through that. Malachi 3, 16 and 18. Who are these? Who? Let's talk about this. Malachi 3, 16 and 18. For those who don't think, you're going to find out how important this name is every week. It matters. It really matters. It's not something just a name. Malachi 3, 16 through 18. And it reads, Then those who feared Yahweh spoke to one another, and Yahweh listened and heard them. So a book of remembrance was written before him for those who fear Yahweh and who meditate on his name. Those who meditate on his name. Okay? Then it says, they will be mine. This is what Yahweh says. They will be mine, says Yahweh Sabaoth, on the day that I make them my jewels, and I will spare them as a man spares his own son who serves him. Isn't that beautiful? First of all, Yahweh says the people that he's going to mark and set aside, you're a father, you're a mother, you love your children, you protect them. Yahweh's going to protect those who remain during the time of the blowing of the bowls, okay? Of the bowls, the bowl judgments. Yahweh did not save us for judgment. We live by grace. We living in grace, okay? In the latter days, when these bowl judgments, they're going to be saved. But those who meditate on his name, there was no such thing as a Lord or God or Jesus Christ. Do you think Malachi said that out of his inspired mouth? He quoted Yahweh right here when he says in verse 17, they will be mine. Yahweh's not going to call on to give somebody else his credit. You're going to write a book and say your buddy across the street wrote it? Or even worse, you're going to say your enemy wrote it? Give him all the royalties? And not only that, listen to this. He says he's going to spare his own. And then the next verse he says, then you will discern between the righteous and the wicked, between who serves Yahweh and who does not serve him. You're going to know at that time, after Yom Teruah, who is righteous, who is Sadiq, and who is not. who is Ra, who meditates on Yahweh's name, who serves him, because they're the ones that are going to be preserved. Just like in Misraim. They did not receive the plagues of the Egyptians. They were preserved. They were protected. So there was discernment to who was his and who was not. And then there was what? A shaking out. There was a purging after that. Same thing with the Exodus. Yahweh had to purge out the Erev Rav. They were purged out from the golden ox all the way up until Baal Peor. It took that long to purge them out. Not one of those bastards went through the Jordan River. Not one. They came out by the thousands, tens of thousands, through the Red Sea. Yeah, they snuck out because they put the blood on their lintels, which is inside of the house. So they were spared. But they did not. Yahweh knows the heart. And they were all weeded out. They didn't make it to the Jordan. Same thing here. After the first resurrection, Yom Teruah, then you have his remnant on the earth, but there's still going to be a purging. We're going to talk more about that. But I'm telling you now, it says it right here in Malachi, those who meditate and think on his name. You think Yahweh don't know what his name is? And you hear it here every week. And he says he is going to spare those. And he wrote it down in a book. Yahweh literally writes it in a book, those who think on his name. That's a beautiful thing. I think you better take that seriously. And then he says, then you will discern who's his and who's not his. You're going to discern it then. And this is not Rosh Hashanah. This is not the head of the year. This is the birth of Adam, but the covenant year is Abib. The covenant year is Abib. Exodus 12:2. I mean, you can't. It's very well said. It's very simple. Exodus 12:2. And this is after we were commanded about the Passover. And he says, this month will be your beginning of months. It will be the first month of the year to you. That's Abib. That came from Yahweh. He said, this is your first month. So that means today is not the first, is not Rosh Hashanah. This is the birth of Adam. It is your resurrection day, but it's not the first. This is Yahweh covering himself legally. All right, bringing Adam back to him. This is what he's supposed to do legally. But the covenant, that comes later. The covenant seed comes later. And there are only 4 months out of the 12 that have original Hebrew names. One of them is Abib, and then the next, and Abib is what we would call around March and April, okay? Abib always falls in March or April. This is important because we're celebrating all these Moedim in different times. But it comes around March or April, and then another month that's named in Hebrew is Ziph. Ziph is always in April or May. And the other month is Ethanim, which is now, Ethanim. And that's always in September or October. And then finally you have Bul, which is the last month of the 12, and that's around October or November. All the other days are just given a number. Just like the days of the week. Throughout the entire Torah, there is no name given to Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. None of the days of the week have a name. None of them, not from Yahweh's mouth. Those names came from the pagan world. The only day that Yahweh named was the seventh day, Shabbat. The seventh day has an actual name. Shabbat is the seventh day's name. And the reason why these 4 months have a name, guess why? Because his Moedim are in those months. The other months are given a number. They lead you to the next Moed. That should give you pause to think and say, ding, 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 this is important. This month has an actual name that didn't come from Babylon. You can find it right here in the Torah. It has a literal name, a Hebrew name. Why? Because it's an appointed time in that month. The other months have a number. They lead to an appointed time. When you follow Yehonatan Dawid on Yahweh for Christians every week, Sundays 1 to 2, you're going to learn deeper meanings of things. Now, there's 4 levels, we talked about that, of learning. Peshat, which is just the superficial understanding of things. Yom Teruah, you blow the trumpet. But we found, and you keep the Shabbat. But we found out a deeper meaning. It is not putting a trumpet in your hand and blowing it from your mouth. It's deeper than that. The remez hints at a warning of a signal of greater events. This is something greater than that. That's what the remez level of learning is. And then you have the dirash level of learning, and that when it compares things, like I'm comparing the different trumpets to you. I'm telling you the deep meaning of the shofar and where that came from, how they were the original 4 horns from the 2 rams killed by Yahweh, and how that's what's represented on the altar, on the 4 corners of the altar. And explain to you what the chasatzara are, the silver horns, that there's not just 7 trumpets being blown in Revelations, they all the same, they're not all the same. And then I give you the sod meaning, the mystery, sod. Those are 4 levels. You have Peshat, Remez, Dirash, and Sod. And Sod is what, like I'm telling you, how Adam and Eve was not born with blood. And he did not create it with blood in their bodies. And how they looked silver after they were polished with the breath of Yahweh. And actually, Mother Hawa was polished with the breath of Adam, because when he spoke to her, that woke her up. He enlivened her. Yahweh didn't blow the breath into Mother Hawa. Adam spoke to her, and that startled her. You know, like the machine that puts on top of the heart to startle you. He startled her to life. When he says, wow! He said, ho! When he saw that woman. That's what we should be saying to Alice when we see her. Now, we all have our smartphones. Okay, I'm recording this on the channel now. And these smartphones will help us really have less disagreement on when this time is, when the appointed times are. Because we know it happens on a new moon. All right, this is the only moed that happens on a new moon. And on your smartphones, you'll find out that the next one is tomorrow at 8:52 p.m. Now, if you was back here in the so-called Bible times, but this is the Bible times today, but during the writing of the Torah, you would have to use your eyeballs. And before we had technology, you had to use your eyeballs. You wouldn't be able to see the new moon. This is why this feast, it's not a feast day, by the way, not a feast day, but this is why this moed is called the hidden moed, because for 2 days you really don't know exactly when it starts. See, this day is unique in that it's the only one that starts on a new moon. And I'm going to talk about that word, new moon. So you don't know exactly when it starts. Now today, hey, like I said, we got our smartphones, which are smarter than us, and you can see that 8:52 p.m. is the next new moon. Some people are going to be doing it a month later, and we're going to talk about that. But I was just got revelation this morning, not a revelation, but I was looking at this about how we celebrated on different days, and I was typing in the word rehearsal because we're all practicing now. And I couldn't spell the word rehearsal. I was surprised. Wait a minute, am I spelling this wrong? And I looked at the word and I rewrote it, retyped it, and it's rehearsal. R-E-H-E-A-R. Okay, rehear. Re-shema. So every time you study these things, you learn more. I'm learning more every time I go over this. We are all learning. We are practicing. Please do not slay your brother or your sister if they celebrate this thing next month, or even in a couple of days. Now, I will tell you, you can't be in 12 inches of snow talking about you're keeping Shavuot. You can't be on Halloween talking about you're keeping Yom Teruah. You can't be on Christmas talking about you're keeping tabernacles. Nothing. We're not talking about that. Now that's just dirt wrong and it's evil and it's wicked. But if you're sincerely studying this and learning, and we should be all close together about when we celebrate these days. But on Yom Teruah, it should be no error in whether it's a new moon or a slither. You are wrong and out of line if you're celebrating the sliver. Scripturally, okay? Now, if you do it next month, hey, on the next new moon, that's I don't celebrate next. It's this one, as far as my study says. But if you do the next one, that's fine. But if you're celebrating a sliver, I'm going to have to chastise you. I did this already before. I'm going to briefly go through it now because we're talking about Yom Teruah. We're not really trying to go into these other areas. But 1 Samuel 20. Let's go to 1 Samuel. I did this before already. 1 Samuel 20. And I'm going to read, I'm not going to read all of it, but I'm going to read verses 5, 24, 25, 27, and 30. You will be clear after this next few minutes of when Yom Teruah begins. You may not be able to see it, but you'll be clear. 1 Samuel 20, verses 5, 24, 25, 27, and 30. And it reads, this is when David and Jonathan, they have a covenant between themselves. This is important. They make a covenant between themselves. And this is what the backdrop is, okay? And then Jonathan, okay, Dawid and Jonathan, that's my name. My name is Jonathan Dawid. Well, this is Dawid and Jonathan making a covenant between one another. And Shaul, Jonathan's father, is having a feast during that time for 2 days. And so that's the backdrop. And verse 5 reads, and Dawid said to Jonathan, indeed, tomorrow is the new moon, and I should not fail to sit with the king to eat. But let me go, that I may hide in the field until the third day at evening. Key words. He said, I'm going to hide till the third day in the evening. Let's go down to verse 24. See what's going on. Let's get some more light on this. In verse 24. And it reads, then Dawid hid in the field, and when the new moon had come, the king sat down to eat the feast. So Dawid was in the field. When the new moon had come, Shaul sat down at his table with his entourage for the feast. Now go to 25. Now the king sat at his seat, as at other times, on a seat by the wall. And Jonathan arose, and Abner sat by Shaul's side, but David's place was empty. He was in the field, hiding because he knew Shaul wanted to kill him. Now, verse 27, and it reads, and it happened the next day, the second day of the month, it's clear telling you the second day of the month, that David's place was empty. And Shaul said to Jonathan his son, why has the son of Jesse not come to eat either yesterday or today? 2 days now, yesterday and today, he has not come. From the beginning of the month now, right? Now let's go down to verse 30. And it reads, then Shaul's anger was aroused against Jonathan, and he said to him, and you got to read the whole chapter, you son of a perverse and rebellious woman, and called his wife rebellious and perverse. Do I not know that you have chosen the son of Jesse to your own shame and to the shame of your mother's nakedness? See, I know you're protecting him. So for 2 days, Dawid hid in the darkness of a black, unseen moon. And he revealed himself on the third day when the crescent came out. Okay? So what we see here is that for the 2 days, that the moon was not visibly evident. It was not visibly evident. This is why he chose to hide at that time in the field, because you could not see him. That's the darkest times of the month, is those 2 days. And this has ramifications, because remember, Yahweh is in the tomb. He died for us. He rose on the third day. They rolled a big round stone over the entrance of the cave. So the Malach rolled that stone off at the third day. Yahweh came out of the darkness at the third day. The first 2 days was complete blackness. You could not see him. Not until he came out the third day. Just like Jonah couldn't see to the crescent. So when you look at a tomb, you look at the round rock, you can imagine how a crescent shows after the third day. When the rock is being rolled slowly, a crescent comes up. Imagine yourself as Jonah in the mouth of the whale. When his mouth opens on the third, after the third day. A crescent coming when he sees the light and he comes out. It's the same thing with our death. When the Yom Teruah, when Yahweh sounds, by the way, that's Yahweh's voice sounding, bringing us out of the grave for resurrection. This is the third day. This will be the third day of mankind from the 4 days before Yahweh Shua was here. So we know that Yahweh Shua, we're in 2,000 years plus, 1,000 years for a day. So we'll be going into our third day. So the resurrection comes on the third day. So here's the key. There's darkness for 2 days, and then you begin to see the light on the third day. By the day, it's the third day of the month. So that means the first day, you do not see it. The second day, you do not see it. When you finally see light from the moon, it's the third day of the month. So if you're celebrating Yom Teruah 3 days, 2 days later, 3 days later, you're late. Now, if that didn't get you to understand, now I use the scriptures, right? Also, you can go to Psalm 81 and 3 for a second witness. Psalm 81 and 3, when Dawid is talking about the moon and how it is hidden and covered and is not seen when it's new. I'm going to talk about that word new. But you got to read it in the Hebrew words, not the English words. Remember, original words gives you original truth. 1 Samuel 20 tells you that the first 2 days of the month, you cannot see the moon. The third day you can. Psalms 81 and 3 tells you the same thing. But even without a Bible, even with sitting down, let's talk. Let's reason in common sense, okay? Let's use apologetics for those who may not have a Bible. Let's use this. All right, now we all know, here's something that none of us can argue about. Passover begins on the 14th day, right? No one debating about that. We know Passover begins on the 14th day and then it happens on the full moon. We know Passover is always on a full moon. We know full means 100%. If it's 99%, it's not full. We're talking about righteousness now. We're talking about Yahweh. Yahweh is perfect. He didn't say 99%. He said everybody who gets into heaven doing their best. He said be perfect. That's why we have grace. We know a full moon is when we have Passover. Nobody's arguing about that. We know a full is 100%. Now we know that means that 14 days before Passover is on a full moon, 14 days before Passover had to be a new moon. If 14 days before Passover is a new moon, it had to be zero luminosity. You go from 0 to 100. 0 is empty, nothing. If it's 1%, it's not empty. If it's 1%, it's not empty. Empty is 0. If it's 99%, it's not full. 99 is not full. So if Passover is on the 14th day, and it is, and it's on a full moon, and it is, and full means complete, and it does, 100%. Then 14 days before the full moon, see, I'm getting loud, because I'm getting excited, because it bothers me when people don't listen to scriptures, and then even if they don't listen to scriptures, they don't listen to logic. 14 days before the full moon was a new moon. That means an empty moon. That means zero luminosity. See, here's the thing. If you say that it was not empty, that means there was a little bit of a crescent. That means Yahweh Shua, 14 days from that point would mean another crescent. There will always be another crescent 14, if you count from that point on. So that means Yahweh Shua died a day late. And we know he didn't die a day late. He is the Pesach. He is the Passover sacrifice. He is the Pesach. He didn't die late. He died perfectly and on time. So if Yahweh Shua died on time, and we know he did, perfectly, as the Passover on a full moon, that 14 days before that was an empty moon, a dark moon. Nothing. You cannot see it. And that's because we're getting choked on this word new. The moon is not new. It's the same moon that's been there since the 4th day of creation. It is refreshed. The Ibarit word, see, let's take the English out, okay? Let's use the Ibarit so we can get rid of confusion. This is Yehonatan Dawid with you here, original words, original truth. The word is kadosh, which means refresh. Refresh. I was driving behind it. I use this example all the time about the vintage cars. Now I can give you an absolute example because I did it just yesterday. Coming from the baptism, beautiful, beautiful baptism yesterday. When I was blowing that shofar like I owned it. I was going home. Somebody who lives where I live has a vintage Mustang. Looks, I don't know the year, but maybe like a 1969 Mustang. Beautiful, beautiful. And I was followed by him the whole way because he lives where I live. And a vintage. Now he cannot say this is a new Mustang. He cannot say this is a 2021 Mustang. It is not, but it is refreshed and refurbished. It's workable. It's beautiful. Matter of fact, it's more valuable than a new Mustang. If you used to get his Mustang, which is what, 70 years old, 60 something years old, it's more valuable than someone who gets a 2021 Mustang. They ain't making 1 million of those. But how many 1969? This is a beautiful carbon blue Mustang. Beautiful, no, not a spot on, wrinkle on it. And I followed behind this thing and looking at it. That's beautiful. That's more valuable than a new one. That's what the moon is. It is refreshed every month. Refreshed. It is not new. It is refreshed. It is refurbished. It is the same vintage moon from the 4th day of creation, over about 6,000 years ago. Same moon. So if you look at it that way, it is not a new moon. It is refreshed. Yahweh is polishing it up. He's beginning to polish it up again. He's beginning another 28 days of revelation. Remember, we're having a rehearsal. Rehear, rehearsal. I'm learning every year. I'm learning more and more about these feast days. I'm learning more and more, and or these moed. This is not a feast day. It is a Shabbat, but it's not a feast day. But new moon now, please have it solid in your mind and your heart, is a zero luminosity moon. You know this even if you don't even know scripture, because you know without argument, without debate, that Yahweh Shua died on. He is the Pesach. That Passover begins on the 14th day of the month, and it is a full moon. Full is 100%. That means you can't get anything else in it. Okay? So I hope we're clear on that. And we know that it is not a new moon. Maybe I need to start calling it a refresh moon to get that out of your mind. It's a refresh moon. Refresh moon starts tomorrow at 8:52. I suggest you just go ahead and start at sunset, which is what, like 7:30 something. I don't know. You can look on your smartphone, that you know when sunset. But you shouldn't be sitting around waiting on a dot like that. You should already be celebrating and worshiping, and the Shabbat comes, it comes. New moon, it comes, it comes. I'm going to be blowing my shofar better than what I did in here just now. So we have a refresh moon, and it is really the only moed that's called a hidden day. Let's look at Matthew 24. Matthew 24. It's hidden because you have 2 days, just like Dawid hid in the field for 2 days from Shaul, who's trying to kill him. He hid for 2 days under that moon that you couldn't even see. Matthew 24. I'm going to read verses 36, 40, and I see my time right now. That's why I told you that this is going to be a two-part Teruah service. Okay, lesson. Matthew 24. Matthew, this will be my last scripture. Okay, Matthew 24, 36, 42, and 44. Okay, reading at 36. This is Yahweh Shua talking about being watchful during these last days. But in that day and hour, no one knows, not even the Malachim of Hashemayim, but Ma'ab only. But now go down to, see, Yahweh Shua said nobody's going to know that, because remember, you don't know when the exact Yom Teruah day is. Now we do because we have the smartphones. But in using your naked eye, you don't, because it's going to be 2 days of not seeing any moon. Now go down to verse 42. Watch therefore, because you do not know what hour your master is coming. You don't know what hour I'm going to come. Not the hour. You know the day. You can know about the day, but not the exact hour. You can't. Not with your naked eye. And go to verse 44, and it reads, therefore you also be ready, because the bane of Yah, the son of Yah, is coming at an hour An hour, not a day, an hour that you do not expect. You should know the day. You should have an idea today. You're not going to know the exact hour because the new moon you cannot see. The refresh moon. I'm going to try to get that out. The refresh, just like with Torah, we need to start using the word instructions. Same thing with new moon. We need to use the word refreshed. Kodesh, refresh moon. Because the word for moon and month and new in Ibri is all the same. Kadosh is all the same. It's a refreshed moon. And it's a day of shouting. When Yahweh arise, all your enemies will scatter. We all will regather. Yahweh reign forever. When Yahweh arise, all your enemies will scatter. Hallelujah. Hey! So I'm going to try again blowing this kudu. But I want you to be unafraid, be fearless during this time. And leading into Yom Kippur, time for reflection is for 10 days, you're going to be shouting for joy because Yahweh breathes through you. You are the original trumpet, and he breathes through you, and you shout for joy. I want you to shout for joy during this time each day and give a shout for joy with all your might. Let the neighbors hear it. Let you wake people up. Call them to attention. That's what this is about. Because when Yahweh shouts, things happen, and you will resurrect. You will resurrect. And that's going to be a time of joy. You're going to be shouting for joy then. I'm going to tell you what that song's going to be. We're going to be singing too when we go up there. And I'm going to give you a song from the scriptures that we're going to be singing. So next week we're going to do this again. Yom Teruah Part 2. Man, I am tired, man.